Hello everyone, this is Will with Spiritual Clarity, and I only have a few minutes to make this video, but it's so important to get this out there. I just had a session with a client, and the most perfect analogy came up to describe the work that I do with women business owners. So I'm not sure if you've ever heard of the story of the Princess and the Pea, but it's so perfect at describing exactly what goes on for women in business when they're stuck, when they don't know what the problem is, when they're trying to do all these things, their website, their marketing, their social media, they hire consultants, they do all this work, but it doesn't seem to get the thing. It doesn't seem to address that thing. And so they're still feeling blocked. They're procrastinating. They're feeling overwhelmed. They're playing small. They're not going for those opportunities they really want, or they're not directly reaching out to ask potential clients if they want to work with them, or directly reaching out to podcasts to be featured on those podcasts, whatever their next level is for them. Maybe it's a book they've written that they want to publish, or a book that's been published that they need to promote to the next level. So this story of the Princess and the Pea works so perfectly, and I can't believe I never saw it before, but here it is. If you've never heard the story before, the basics are that a girl is brought in, it's late at night, and she's brought into the castle because she's lost or lonely. They bring her in, and she says she's this princess from another land, and they have a test to see if she's really a princess. So they put a pea underneath a mattress, and they let her sleep there, and the next morning they say, "How was your sleep?" And she says, "Oh, it was terrible. It was the most uncomfortable bed. I'm so sorry to insult your generosity, but it was a terrible sleep. The mattress was so uncomfortable." And that's how they knew she might be a princess. But how they really knew she was a princess is they put, I think it was 25 mattresses on top. And I think the story progresses over time. They add more and more mattresses. And even with 25 mattresses, she still has a terrible sleep the next morning. And this is what so many women in business do. There's a P, there's a thing, there's a lie, there's something you're avoiding, something you don't want to deal with, some pile of crap, something. And then you keep adding mattresses on top. You work on your website, you work on your social media presence, you do more promotional posts, you hire business consultants, or you hire different people, or you hire staff to work in your business to try to do the things, or you hire a marketing agency and you pay them thousands of dollars to do your marketing for you, but it doesn't really work, or it totally flops, or you invest in a new course or program that's going to teach you whatever it's going to teach you, all to try to deal with this P that's underneath all of it. But it doesn't matter how many mattresses you add, because you're a princess. Now, I want to be very clear. I don't mean that in the derogatory sense. And this is perfect. This is where this story as an analogy is more perfect than I could have ever hoped for or imagined. Because so many of us have shame around being a princess. Our society has all these negative connotations and judgment and shame around being a princess. But in this story, what does it mean for her to be a princess? It just means she's very sensitive. She's very aware of what's underneath her. She can feel exactly what's going on, and she can't be unaware of that no matter what. No matter how much crap she piles on top of it, no matter how many layers she puts down, she's still aware that there's something out of alignment. Does that sound like a bad definition? Not in my books. That sounds like a superpower. But too many business owners, especially women, because there's an extra negative connotation being a woman and a princess and all the crap that brings with it. So instead of dealing with all the mattresses, and instead of identifying what the actual P is that's causing all the problems, we walk around with shame. And so many women are walking around with shame about being a princess in whatever way that shows up for you, that you don't want to do sales the way that everyone else does it, or you don't want to do outreach the way everyone else does it, or whatever version of that is, promotion. But instead of actually dealing with the P, you're busy dealing with all the shame about it, all the cultural, societal shame, or shame from friends about the fact that you're so sensitive. And so you push. And you push and you push, and you try to do sales the way that everyone else does it. You try to do marketing or promotion the way everyone else does it. You try all these approaches that don't really work for you because you're so ashamed that you're aware of the P that you're distracted from what the work really is. What the work really is identifying that P and removing it. And then you won't need all those mattresses. You can just have one wonderful mattress and you'll sleep amazing. So the work is identifying that P. Now, in my experience, after working with hundreds of women business owners, and this goes from C-suite level women in corporate, as well as very experienced solo entrepreneurs, as well as beginner entrepreneurs, this seems to hold true across the spectrum. That the P is almost always about a judgment that you don't want to hear. Something that someone might say to you if you were to reach out to them, if you were to contact them directly, if you were to ask for the sale directly, if you were to ask to be on their podcast directly. It's some judgment that you don't want to hear. That's almost always the case. Most of my work boils down to that. Now, there's different versions of that. So if you're beginning in business, if you're early days, then it's probably a very blatant judgment. Who do you think you are? How dare you? How dare you try to sell me something? Or you're greedy and all you want is to sell me something. That's in the early days. In later days, for more experienced women that are 10 or 20 years into the business, it's usually something more subversive, something that's kind of gone underground because they've been successful now for quite a while. And so those fears and doubts, maybe from childhood, it might be about how they look. They don't want to go on camera because of something someone said when they were a kid. And although they've done tons of amazing energy work, or they've worked with incredible life coaches or behavioral therapists, it's still going on. There's still an energy there. There's still a belief. Or it might be something a bit more meta, a bit higher level about men and the patriarchy and the system that they've never addressed before because they never wanted to use the system as a scapegoat. They've always been very successful in what they do, but they're beginning to realize that they've got some beliefs or some energy patterns or some hangups about all of that. So it shows up very differently for early days business. And when I say early days, I mean between 1 and 5 years, even up to 10 years, versus someone who's been in business for 10 to 20 years. But still, it's the same thing. There's a P. There's something unaddressed. And it doesn't matter how many mattresses you put on top. If you don't find that P and get rid of it, you're not going to sleep well. So instead of trying to shame yourself out of being so aware, which is often what happens, a lot of women that I know, a lot of my clients have tried to shame themselves out of being aware of the P, being aware of the problem, being aware of that energetic misalignment. The great quote from Hamlet, "There's something rotten in the state of Denmark." They try to pretend, oh, no, there's nothing wrong. Everything, oh, I had a great sleep. I slept so well. Thank you so much for your hospitality. People pleasing, overgiving, crappy boundaries. If you've heard me talk about the 8 pillars of the imposter complex, I go into that in more detail, but that's all a result of ignoring how aware you are about that P and trying to pile more mattresses on top. I hope this has been helpful. I hope this has given you some aha moments. When this story came up as the perfect analogy for this morning, I couldn't believe I never saw it before, but it's so perfect. It's so perfect. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope maybe even you might know what that P is. If you do, drop me a line. Let me know. will@myspiritualclarity.com, or wherever this is posted, YouTube, Facebook, comment below and let me know what that is. Or just let me know the aha. And please also share this video so that more women in business can become aware of this. We can step out of the shame that women in business don't have to be ashamed of being aware, of being sensitive, of having that superpower, that you can embrace it. So please share this video as best you can. Like it, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye for now.